صنعاء مسقط عماني ويا دمشق بلاد الشام.
I would describe my younger self as accidentally a Zionist. I say accidentally a Zionist because I actually didn't know there was another way to be Jewish. At Hebrew school and growing up, our education was just so entrenched in believing that you should support Israel and that being Jewish meant loving and supporting Israel that I actually didn't know there was another way to be Jewish. So I was born in Huntington Woods, Michigan, a small suburb of Detroit. I absolutely grew up in a Jewish community that valued social justice and saw our Judaism as a form of practicing social justice. My grandparents were big advocates for social justice. The fact that there was a lot of oppression in Jewish history absolutely informed how I see oppression and resistance to oppression. One of my grandfathers is an Auschwitz survivor, and I grew up hearing his story, and that really informed this idea of never again means never again for anyone. I absolutely grew up with the narrative that because of the Holocaust, we have to fight for Israel, we have to protect Israel. It's the only thing keeping us safe as a Jewish people who are constantly under threat. I did not hear about the occupation of Palestine or that phrase until college. I'm not even sure I heard about Palestine or Palestinians. It was always rhetoric of like Arab neighbors that want to destroy Israel. I remember at Israel's 60th day birthday party, there was a big carnival and I went with my friends. And I remember there being a counter protest outside of people supporting Palestinian freedom. And I remember seeing the counter protest and being really confused what they were protesting because it was just a very neutral Celebrate Israel carnival. Everyone was going, it was going to be fun. And I remember going up and actually asking them a question about why they were there. And I remember that planting a seed in me that I was missing a big part of the story. Studying women and gender studies and sociology, I had all of these professors who taught us about anti-colonial resistance, professors who taught us about US colonialism in Puerto Rico, professors who taught us about Western Sahara and Kashmir and Puerto Rico and made the connection to Palestine. And it was crystal clear that you couldn't oppose colonialism, racism, and imperialism only in some places, but be okay with it in Palestine. My family who lives in Israel, they came from Morocco, and so I had learned about racism against Moroccan Jews. I know that they were put in the poorest towns. I knew that they experienced state violence from Israel as Moroccan Jews. So when I learned about what happened to the Palestinian people, it was really easy for me to believe it. So I went on the Birthright Israel trip in 2012. They really have you bond as a group. They have Israeli soldiers join your trip to talk to you about what it's like to be your age and be in the army and to fight for Israel and to fight for the Jewish people. They tell you Jerusalem is a Jewish city, it is our holy land. You don't really learn about it as a Muslim and Christian city. They take you on Birthright, they take you to the Holocaust Museum, and I specifically remember walking through the Holocaust Museum, Yad Vashem in Jerusalem, and it was really painful and emotional. There's a room with all of these candles and lights, and they say all the names of children killed during the Holocaust. And you exit that room, and everyone is crying and feeling emotional. And they had us look over at Jerusalem. It's sort of hanging above the city. And they say, because of what you just heard, this is why you have to fight and defend Israel anywhere you can. I remember going through that experience and feeling really angry and really critical, and feeling like they just emotionally manipulated us. More and more young American Jews are becoming deeply critical of Israel, support BDS, oppose Zionism, stand on the side of Palestinian freedom and justice. And I definitely met students who had deep falling outs with family members over their activism for Palestine. They had family members who threatened to, not support them through college or not let them come home for a holiday. I feel like so many times false accusations of anti-Semitism are used to smear people standing up for justice in Palestine. The BDS movement is really important to me, and one of the reasons I was really excited to join JVP because they endorse BDS is that I believe the oppressor never just listens to the oppressed because they feel like it. You have to actually hold them accountable for their actions. And then I also feel like I have a responsibility as a Jewish person in the US to challenge Jewish institutions that are upholding Zionism and white supremacy, to fight to end US funding to the Israeli military, the $3.8 billion a year that the US gives. I have a responsibility to be active and make it crystal clear that standing up for Palestinian freedom is about freedom and justice of all people, and that in no way is it anything near anti-Semitic.